Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about an interesting topic. We covered it a little bit yesterday, and it's a topic of self-deception, how there's things about ourselves that we don't want to believe, so we just don't believe them. They did an experiment where they took two groups of atheists, not atheists, agnostics, and they talked to one group about death, and they talked to another group about something depressing. And the group that they talked to about death, because nobody can deal with death, they started believing in God as a way to, you don't die, you go to heaven. So it turned agnostics into God conscious, at least a large percentage of them. Whereas the other group of agnostics, none of them became God conscious, because the idea is people, they'll come up with a story to explain things that they can't face. And they'll believe the story even if they don't have any proof. So these agnostics just wanted to believe in God to explain, to be able to deal with death. So even though they didn't believe in it, they start believing in something, kind of like deceive themselves to deal with a problem. Well, I'll give you another example. Think if you make an excuse. Instead of saying, I'm incompetent, you make an excuse, which is not true, and at some level you know it's not true, but at least if you have the excuse, then you don't have to admit you're not incompetent. Can you relate to that? Because if you make a mistake, and your ego wants to think, well, I'm too smart to make a mistake like that, so it couldn't be my fault. So you come up with a story that is somebody else's fault, so you deceive yourself so you can maintain that false conception of yourself. I'll give you an example. You do something, and it hurts me. So I believe my emotions are reality. So it's your fault that I'm hurting. That's my story. Is that true? Maybe I could have seen it in a Krishna conscious way and it wouldn't hurt me. But my emotions dictate my reality, so the reality is because of how you made me feel this way. Which is not true. This is how I reacted. But I don't want to think I'm an emotionally messed up person who blames people, so I will just say, no, I'm fine, but you hurt me, and therefore I'm hurt. So that way we deceive ourselves. The reality is that I didn't know how to deal with you. I mean, look at what Krishna says, be equal. Happiness and distress, victory, defeat, honor, dishonor. And now we get upset, throw out Krishna's instructions, blame it on someone else, but make believe I'm a great devotee. So by saying it's your fault, I say, no, I'm completely equipoised. It's just your fault. Otherwise, I'd be fine if it wasn't for you. You understand? It's a form of self-deception where the ego doesn't want to admit something, so it comes up with a story to explain it that's not true. Let's give some very simple examples. It's 9 o'clock at night, you should go to sleep. And you tell yourself, but I just heard about this one thing, I'm curious about it, I think I could use it, I just want to check it out on the internet. And you tell yourself, I'll just check it out for 5 minutes and I'll go to sleep. And you tell yourself that because you know every time you go on the internet, it lasts an hour. And you've never gone on for 5 minutes. And you tell yourself, I'll go on for 5 minutes. And after an hour, you pull yourself off. So you just deceived yourself. Right? You're not honest with yourself. It's human psychology. Oh, I'll just give me a little bit. I'll just take a little bit. When was the last time you just took a little bit? Oh, I'll just have one. Some people, they either will eat none or they'll eat a whole package. Because if they eat one and they promise themselves they wouldn't eat any, then they tell themselves, I've already eaten one, so what does it matter if I eat the whole package? It does matter, doesn't it? There's a difference. Self-deception. Isn't that amazing? And we could give hundreds of examples. Now bring that into Krishna consciousness. Do you want someone to tell you you're a fool? You're stupid, you're not Krishna conscious, you're a neophyte? Raise your hand if you'd like to be. Label all those things. Anybody. But what if we are? And the evidence is there that we are. But because we don't want to admit it, we'll deny it. We'll come up with a story to prove something else. You understand? To maintain that false conception of who we are, we'll rationalize, make excuse, come up with stories, deny. Even common evidence, we'll deny it. So that's how self-deception works. Now, yesterday we spoke a little bit about pride. And I think one of the challenges we have as devotees is that although this sounds strange, but in some cases it's harder for us to recognize our faults because we're not supposed to have any, because we're devotees. You understand? I mean, I read the books, and the books say, I'm a devotee, so I have all the good qualities of the demigods, and it's those people out there that have all the bad qualities. If we had all good qualities? Well, I'm here because I had bad qualities, but now I'm here, so that means I have good qualities. And everybody out there has the bad qualities, and everybody in here has the good qualities. And so, sometimes there's like this cognitive dissonance that we can't see the bad quality because I'm not supposed to have it. Devotees are glorified. Maybe I've been praised by my spiritual master. Maybe I'm a good brahmachari. Good brahmacharis have certain qualities. I'm a good grihasta, whatever. I'm a chaste wife. And when we say things are subtle, what does subtle mean? One meaning of subtle is it's in front of your face, but you can't see it. Because it's not, subtle means it's not obvious. So I was telling him yesterday or last week that, or previously, in our workshop on humility, we asked a question. And the question was to meditate on the times that you did something in Krishna consciousness which was highly motivated by a desire to be recognized. More motivated by the desire to be recognized than the pure motivation to serve. Or at least that there was, maybe not more motivated, but there was a good deal of motivation. It was definitely part of the motivation. Try to think of something you've done. Was it that artik? Was it that kirtan? Was it that class? Was it that position you got when you were leading this party? Think of something that you did. Think of all the things you've done in your devotional career where that motive entered into it. It's kind of a heavy question. if you're honest. And so many devotees said, I don't think I've ever done anything in Krishna consciousness that wasn't motivated in some way by a desire to be recognized. That's pretty interesting. Now that's pretty honest, right? And her realization was that I never really noticed it until you asked it, because it's subtle. And why don't you notice it? Because a good devotee wouldn't be motivated by pride, and I'm a good devotee. So even though I'm motivated by pride, I don't notice it because it's out of context of my self-identity. I don't think I'm like that, so I don't notice it. Does that make sense? Isn't that weird? So if we create an identity that I'm this way, and I act that way, we won't see that the motive is wrong because the identity says I'm this way. You understand? Someone have an example like that in their life? I think one example that comes to my mind for many devotees is that someone who's not always nice but thinks they're always nice can't understand when somebody says you hurt me. And they just think that something's wrong with that person. I don't hurt anybody. I don't ever do or say anything that would hurt anybody. Why? Because I'm a nice person, and nice people don't hurt people. Does that make sense? That's a common problem. You get hurt, nice people, you get hurt by a nice person who doesn't hurt anybody, who has no understanding that he or she hurt you, because he or she could never hurt you, because he or she is always nice. Interesting, isn't it? There is a common example in the material world of a person. The definition of a person who's an alcoholic is someone who drinks alcohol every day. Most of them live in Washington, D.C., and I think most of them are in Congress or the Senate. That's one statistic I heard. Anyway, a person who drinks alcohol every day means they're an alcoholic. They can't stop. And if you tell those people they're alcoholics, they'll say, no, I'm not. Even though they drink every day, they'll say they're not. Now I have some news for you. If when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is go to your phone and check your messages or go on Facebook, you're addicted to your phone. You actually have an addiction to your phone. Like someone has addiction to a drug, you have it to your phone. Yes? If you get up in the morning and you have to check your message, that's an addiction. Right? I'm not addicted to my phone, Prabhu. It's like the person, I could stop smoking if I wanted to. Everybody's like illusioning themselves. Isn't it? You agree? Yeah. So these are examples. So now, in our lives, pride is one of the most subtle. And if Maya is going to entrap a conditioned soul, she has to be able to enter their house without them knowing it. Like, it's 2 a.m. and I'm going to steal all your wife's jewelry. So I have to enter the house without you knowing it. And I have to walk around quietly and steal without you knowing it. I found out somewhere I was, that thieves have a device which can detect what homes have gold in it and how much gold they have. So they find the right house, they check everything out, and they have to be able to get in without being noticed. So if Maya can get into your life without being noticed, then you're in trouble, right? Now, if Maya gets in and you don't notice, you can't do anything because you don't know she's in and you don't know she's working on you, right? So let's say you have a problem, but you don't know you have a problem. And because you don't know you have the problem, you can't work on the problem because you don't know you have it. So if we deceive ourselves to the point where we can't see our problem, then we can't work on it. The only thing we can accomplish is maintaining a false image of ourselves. So Maya's causing us to create a false image. We don't know she's doing that. We go around with a false image. There's a problem. We can't see it. We can't work on it. That's the meaning of subtle. Right? Let's say there's Harinam and you're some rowdy guy, right? And I know every kind of martial art in the three worlds, right? So I come up to you and I just say, come on over here, And in 2 seconds I could completely knock you out. And I have my arm around you in the exact right place that if you do anything, I just pinch the right nerve and you're on the ground. But you don't know that. You just think I'm just some ordinary guy being nice, and I got a bald head, and I got a dhoti, and you think I'm a pacifist, and you could try to do anything. And as soon as you try to do it, you're on the ground, right? Anybody know martial arts, right? If you know the right move, in like 2 seconds, he's on the ground. Yes? Well, at least that's what I was told by a devotee who's a...
There's a nerve in the back, push it,
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, he told me many things, yeah. And he told me that's basically how he does it. He tries to pacify them, make friends with them, but if anything happens, then he can take care of them. So they don't know it. So if Maya comes into your life like that, hey, how's it going? And you don't see it, and you think, yeah, I'm going to defeat Maya. She's already defeated you. So the point is that if you deceive yourself, it means you can't see the problem. If you can't see the problem, you can't work on it. So if we don't deceive ourselves, if we're honest, then we get to work on the problem. And so here's the thing. We were talking yesterday about a devotee being real, or which Prabhupada calls simplicity, or saralata, about a devotee being real. So a devotee being real means he's not embarrassed. He's a vulnerable person. He's willing to admit his faults. His goal in life is not to look good. That's the goal of the materialist. Isn't it? Look good, look powerful. And I've said many times that people actually don't like people who try to look good. You want to hear some nice story? It's very interesting. This professor, when he was just out of grad school, was hired to speak in the military to officers who were all 50 years old, and he was 25. And when they gave their reviews, they all said, he didn't say anything that I didn't know. Like the kid didn't say anything I didn't know. So he had to do a session the next day, and he said, my name is so-and-so, and I'm 12 years old. And because he was vulnerable like that, he got all good reviews. They all liked him. And they said, that was a great talk, and the reviews were, that was a great talk for a 12-year-old. And he looked older than 12, but it was a good, In other words, he was a little vulnerable, and people liked it. And they actually listened to him when he admitted his own, he didn't come across as overly confident. Isn't that interesting? He gave a whole lecture gave various examples of how communication often is more powerful when you take a vulnerable position. Instead of saying, we should do this. If you say, what do you think about this idea? You think that would be a good idea? People will listen more. So when you take that position that I don't know, people actually respect it, and they listen, as opposed to, this is how we should do it, and people think, who are you? It's interesting. It's the opposite of what we think. So, if you're worried about what other people think, just for your information, when you're trying to fake it, nobody's going to like you. And nobody's going to not like you because of your faults. They're going to not like you because you're hiding your faults. That's important information. If you learn nothing more than that tonight, I think that's helpful. Isn't it? Relationships with devotees are very important. We have to reveal our minds. If you reveal your mind and a devotee doesn't like you, I think you shouldn't have that devotee as your friend. Because friends do not judge. And if that friend's judging, probably he has the same problem or she has the same problem you revealed, and they're intimidated by it. And they don't want to confront it and admit it. Because when someone else has the same problem you have, you generally don't like that person. And when they tell you they have this problem and you're dealing with it, quite often you don't like to hear it because you have it also. So real friendship in Krishna consciousness is you can reveal however it is you are. And real friends will accept you as you are. They'll accept your honesty. We were mentioning that last night. How one devotee, senior devotee, had difficulty, and he expressed to the world what that difficulty was. And rather than people condemning him, they actually appreciated him. Whereas if he were caught red-handed and then had to admit it, nobody would appreciate that, right? But rather he came out and said, this is the mistake I made. Everyone appreciated it. And this is the rectification I'm taking. Everyone appreciated it. So the point is, people appreciate honesty. You agree? Like I said, if you're honest and someone doesn't appreciate it, probably that's not a good friend to have. Maybe you find a better friend. Can someone think of some examples of self-deception in Krishna consciousness? Personal examples or examples you've seen in others? Yes?
I recall one time Srila Prabhupada was telling to Parashari Prabhu that if a devotee is not happy, he's a pretender.
If a devotee's not happy, he's a pretender. He's pretending to be a devotee. Yeah. So what did Prabhupada mean by that? If you're properly situated in Krishna consciousness, you'll be happy. If you're following the principles, rising early, chanting your rounds, reading the books, doing service, remaining sufficiently detached, maintaining a proper attitude in relationships with devotees, hearing sufficiently, you'll be happy. So if you're not happy, then what does it mean? Pretending is a heavy word, but we understand what Prabhupada means is you're not following properly. So pretending means you look more like a devotee than you are. So pretending means you look like a devotee, but a devotee is always blissful. Brahma bhuta prasanat. That's a sign of a devotee. And we personally saw that when devotees were happy, it made Prabhupada happy. Because when devotees were happy, then Prabhupada knew everything was going well. And when devotees weren't happy, he knew something was going wrong. So, in one sense, if you wanted a system to evaluate how Krishna conscious you are, that's one of the ways to evaluate it. Am I happy? You agree? Don't you think it's a paradox to be a devotee and be miserable? Unless it's transcendental misery? Or unless you're married, right? No, only joking. But sometimes when you're married, some misery comes that it's not even if you're Krishna conscious, it may come sometimes, but at least you can deal with it. We're only joking. Well, not entirely, but a little bit, yeah. Yes?
На какой-то из лекций вы сказали, когда мы от ручи дойдем когда мы дойдем до ручи, вот тогда мы испытаем счастье. И посмотрели на нас и сказали, какие вы все в депрессии.
One time we were giving a lecture and you said that when we come to the platinum of Ruchi, we'll be happy. And then you looked upon us and you said, you look so depressed.
Yeah, because when I said that, everyone thought, when am I going to come to Ruchi? What I meant by that on the stage of Ruchi, you'll be happy because finally, now, everything you're doing has a taste. Whereas before that state, sometimes the taste isn't there and you just have to force yourself. But it's not that you won't be happy, but yes, to always be happy, that's a higher stage. But still, we have class, we're happy, we have kirtan, we're happy, we take good prasadam, we're happy. Take bad prasadam, we're not happy. Go to a bad class, we're not happy. Go to a bad kirtan, we're not happy. So that's our position. But still, so if things are good, the happiness will be there. But at Ruchi, or Sakti, it's all good, all the time. What to speak of bhava, then it's ecstatic. Better than good. So what can someone think of an example of self-deception? Yes?
You also say trying 116 rounds. So that means when externally you may do the
Oh yeah, right.
mechanically, but actually your consciousness is never there.
You're chanting 16 rounds. Well, this is a good one. You're chanting 16 rounds and they're really bad. And you don't do anything about it. You don't acknowledge it. You want to hear a real big one of the biggest self-deceptions? This is just how I chant and I can't change it. And you can apply that to anything. This is how I am and I can't change it. I was pointing out a few weeks ago, that may be how you are, and maybe you can't change it, but you could act differently. And it may be how you are, and you think you can't change it, and a lot of things you can change. So that's also self-deception. And the self-deception that Prayak's talking about is I'm chanting 16 bad rounds, but those 16 bad rounds are good enough, because they're 16. Right? My rounds are bad, but they're good enough because they're 16. And as long as they're 16, then I'm okay. When in fact, you're not okay because they're not good. 16 bad rounds is not okay. So we chant 16 bad rounds and we tell ourselves, I'm okay because I chanted 16, because it is so difficult at a certain stage to chant 16 good rounds. It takes so much effort and concentration. We don't want to do it, so we tell ourselves 16 bad rounds is 16 good rounds, because it's 16. Isn't it? All that's important is it's 16. And if I do 16, look at Prabhu. You ever heard a devotee say, Prabhu? That's when they're angry. Prabhu means master. Master! Let me tell you something, master. Prabhu. Isn't it? I've noticed that. You might say, might call you somebody their name, but when you're angry at them, you call them Prabhu, which makes absolutely no sense. I chant 16 rounds. That's what I vowed to do, and I'm doing it, and it's 16, and everything's fine. Self-deception. It's not fun. We are meant to chant without offense. You chant without offense, that's fine. So now, it's a good example. If you admit, we can have, they have the 12-step program. We can have this 12-step program for bad japa chanters. My name's Mahatma Das, and I've been chanting bad japa for the last... I've been addicted to bad japa for the last 6 years. How do they say it? And I'm a japaholic, yeah. No, I'm a japa badaholic. My name's Mahatma Das, and I've been a japa badaholic for the last 6 years. And I'm here to improve my japa. Now you're not going to come to Japaholics Anonymous, bad Japaholics Anonymous, unless you realize you're chanting bad japa. And if you want to illusion yourself that everything's okay, then how will you improve? So it's a very good example. You agree? You have to recognize the problem to improve it. And so Prayag's pointing out another reason. One may be denial due to false ego, but another one simply may be, I don't have the determination, the energy, the perseverance to improve. So just say, it's not important. Improving in this area is not important. I'm fine. Why do I say that? Because I'm too lazy to improve. Who would like to admit they're lazy? Most people wouldn't. I didn't want to say, are you lazy? I said, do you want to admit you're lazy? They're two different things. You might acknowledge that you're lazy, but it's hard to admit to yourself, I'm lazy. Why don't I chant good rounds? Because I'm lazy. Why don't I read Bhagavatam? Because I'm lazy. Why do I have bad devotee relations? Because I'm lazy. You might say that as an excuse, but to say it honestly, that's harder to say that, to admit that. Because saying that means I don't care. That's another way of saying I don't care. Why don't you chant good rounds? Because I don't care. All right, how many of you will admit that you don't care? No, that's hard to admit. Isn't it? Now, Prabhus and non-Prabhus. These are the Prabhus and these are the un-Prabhus. These are the Matajis, excuse me. I hate to inform you of a reality that if you're not chanting good rounds, I can tell you the reason why. Actually, I can tell you the reason why you're not doing anything that you could be doing better than you're doing now. The reason is because you don't care to make it any better. That's the truth. And that's a truth that's hard to face, isn't it? If you can do something better and you're not, what's the reason? You could say, I'm lazy. Okay, but what does lazy mean? It means I don't care. You could say, it's not a priority. What does that mean? It means I don't care. That's what it all boils down to. Now, how many of us are willing to say, my rounds aren't good because I don't care. My relationships aren't good because I don't care. I don't get up early in the morning because I don't care. Because that's like a slap in the face of your guru. That's like saying, I don't care what my guru says. Isn't it? Who's willing to admit they don't care what their guru says? Well, if you don't follow his instruction, to some degree, you don't care. Isn't it? And that's hard to admit. So you can see why we deceive ourselves. Because who wants to live with themselves thinking, I don't even care what my guru says? When the reality is, some of the things he says, I don't. Because I'm not thinking about doing them. Or I don't care. All right, I don't care enough. That's easier to swallow. But I don't care at all. That's hard. Now, I can say this because I've had the fortune of attending many, many japa retreats and facilitating many, and this conclusion became obvious in our effort to improve our japa, that this was the biggest problem, and we just don't care. And you're asking, what am I going to teach in my japa retreat? If I can teach one thing to you and get this in your heart, which is to care about japa, my job's done. Because from that point, you'll improve, and you'll improve the rest of your life. I don't have to teach you a million things. I will. But the point of teaching you a million things is so you can chant japa better, so you can see how powerful it is, so that you will care. Because if you leave the japa retreat and you don't care, I failed. Even though I gave you every tool and attitude and strategy and shloka, I failed if you don't care enough to improve yourself. Does that make sense? Yes? Da? Nyat? Pravda? Ya, good, Satyam. Where are you from? How do you say Ya? How do you say good in New Zealand? Good, good. Let's hear it.
Yes.
Yes? Not Ya? Yeah. No. What else you say? Right on or what? What?
All good.
Yeah, okay. All good. All good? All good, mate? Yeah. Very good example. Maybe we should entitle this course, this class today, When Will I Care? When, oh when will that day be mine when I care? About what? My sadhana, my japa, my relationships, my service, the conditioned souls. No, Prabhu, I do care right now. What do you care about? My prasadam, my silk dhoti, my MacBook Pro. I care about a lot of things. What else? Someone have another example of how we could deceive ourselves? Well, I think one obvious challenge we face is a exaggerated estimation of our level of Krishna consciousness. Like, it's not coherent with reality. Sometimes we kind of feel like we're infallible. You ever feel that, wow, Kirtan was ecstatic, that class was ecstatic, and you walk out thinking like, Maya cannot touch me. And 10 minutes later, she touches you. It's like, whoa. But we forget, and the next day after class we think, Maya can't touch me. And 7 minutes later, she touches you. So, most of you know that story that Prabhupada said. Well, Prabhupada said many things, and one of the things Prabhupada said is the Westerner psychology is we're not afraid of Maya. So, Prabhupada said we should always be praying to Krishna, protect me from falling down. In other words, if you think you're strong and you're not, then the big rough tough guy comes in on the Harinam party and he's harassing the girls and you walk up to him and then the guy knocks you out because you didn't realize that he was way stronger than you. You thought you could handle him. So that's a mistake. You remember when America went into Afghanistan? 2001? The Americans actually thought they would take over Afghanistan in 5 days. Some thought 3 days. Some thought as soon as the Americans get on the soil, the Afghanis will surrender. Saddam Hussein will surrender. They'll just see that they can't fight. And having lived in India, knowing something about Middle Eastern has that Kshatriya spirit, I thought, there's no way that's going to happen. They have no idea what they're getting into. I mean, I know from experience, if you just get a group of Indians together that can't get along, they don't need guns, just they don't get along, it's really difficult to get them to work together. It's not easy. Passionate people, certain cultures, strong-headed. India's like, 7, 8, 9, 25 countries. It's not like one, Indians are different. They see things differently in the north and south. And just in one country to get people to get along. Right? It's really hard. There was this recently in one state, we were in a hotel a few weeks ago, somewhere, the airport or something, and they were in whatever they have, parliament or whatever they have in the state, and one guy got really agitated and he went up with the hammer, he just stole the hammer and ran off with it, and everybody ran after him, like things like that, right? So I knew from being around India that when you go to Afghanistan, they're going to They're going to fight in a way that you have no idea. I just sense that intuitively. And so we sometimes deal with Maya like that. Oh yeah, no problem. So we should be realistic about where we're at. Okay, you want to have a reality check? Check this out. From today forward, Lord Chaitanya has decided no more Hare Krishna mantra. He removed it. And you say, how can he do that? And he made it so nobody could chant Hare Krishna. You just physically can't do it. Actually, you can't chant any mantra. Okay, now imagine how Krishna conscious you'd be. You try to go Hare Krishna and you can't. You try to say Jai Govinda and you can't. You can't chant. How Krishna conscious would you be? On a scale of 1 to 10. Wow, I forgot to turn this on. Amazing. That's because the card is full. Oh, I guess it turned off. All right. Guru Nista, you're going to have to, if you're here listening, you're going to have to use this recording to get the audio. So how Krishna conscious will we be on a scale of 1 to 10? No Maha Mantra.
Very quick exhale.
Yeah. About as Krishna conscious as you're, not very Krishna, right? So now, I think I'm strong. Why am I strong? I'm not strong. I have the Maha Mantra. Maha Mantra strong. You take away the Maha Mantra, how strong am I? Right? What does the Bhagavatam say? The warrior goes out to the battlefield, brave soldier, powerful, kills so many people, and he comes home and he bows down to his wife. Please, let me enjoy with you. So Bhagavatam says, by the mere movement of the eyebrow of an attractive woman, a man is finished. Krishna does the same thing, and he attracts the gopis. But in the material world, a woman does that, and it's like arrows in the heart. A man is like helpless. So what's the example? The example is Thakur-Haridas. Thakur-Haridas takes shelter of the holy name. Maya comes personified. First a prostitute. So what to speak of a prostitute? Maya comes, which means Maya means everything which is attractive in this world in one place. Like, New Zealand might be nice. Australia might be nice. India may be nice. Fiji may be nice. Bali may be nice. So they all have nice, right? And there might be very beautiful women in Australia and in France and in Germany. But imagine all of that in one place. All that beauty in one place. All the beautiful sights and sounds and smells and people and talents, everything. That's called Maya. And that Maya came to Thakur-Haridas. Everything attractive came. And how was he able to resist? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So you take away Hare Krishna, what are you? And we're walking around thinking, I'm a great devotee. If Krishna took away your intelligence, you couldn't understand one shloka of Bhagavad Gita. So because we engage in devotional service, we follow the process, Krishna gives mercy, He gives intelligence. That's our strength. It's not us. It's coming from there. Right? And if you understand that, it's easier to be humble and realistic about where you're at. Because you don't identify Krishna's mercy and His spiritual energy as your power. It's not your power. It's a gift. And that's why great devotees who are so advanced are saying they're nothing, because they see their advancement as Krishna's mercy and His power, not their own. It is said, this is amazing. Should I tell you something amazing? Who wants to hear something amazing? If you didn't raise your hand, you have to go outside. You can't hear it. You know, we have this phenomena that someone becomes guru, and then when you become guru, everybody serves you. And it's not easy to handle. Not only do they serve you, they honor you, they praise you, they give you things. And then worse than that, they tell you how great you are. What if every day people told you how great you were? Think it'd be hard to remain humble? You are amazing. It's only by you that I'm even here in Krishna consciousness. Without you, I'd be on the street. You are the personification of divine mercy. And you have to hear that every day. Now, you could start believing that you're special. That maybe you were actually an incarnation in your last life who reappeared as a bodhisattva to come and, you understand. It's not easy to hear yourself being praised. And then you may start to think you're actually special. You may become proud and so forth. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said something which I found so powerful. He said that no matter what happens to a pure devotee, no matter what position he's in, no matter how many followers he has, how many resources he has, how much honor he has, buildings, money, whatever, none of that can ever budge him from his realization that I'm an insignificant servant. Nothing can move him from that. Isn't that interesting? If I just say, Prabhu, you're really intelligent, immediately your blood pressure rises, isn't it? Your back goes straight. And you think, I always knew I was. Glad someone recognized it. Then you're starting to feel good. Right? So what Bhaktisiddhanta is saying, that no matter what a pure devotee gets, nothing will move him from his realization that I'm insignificant and I'm a servant. Nothing can budge him. When we become proud, we get moved from that realization that I'm insignificant and I'm a servant. Isn't it? So if you realize any significance you have is coming from Krishna, you can always remain on the ground. And you can always be vulnerable because you're not trying to prove that you're anything, because you're always in the realization that you're nothing. And if you're always in the realization you're nothing, really you can't be offended. Someone will say, you're just a big fool, and you say, I know. I tell myself that every day. It's just no news to me. I appreciate you telling me. I just want you to know that I also know it. It doesn't throw you off, because that's where you're living. You're not trying to show to yourself or to others you're something else. You're always realizing that what you are is coming from mercy. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Take that away, what are you? Okay, let's have a little exercise. We take away the Maha Mantra, we take away all mantras from our life, and now I'd like you to write your autobiography for the rest of your life. What's it going to look like? It's not going to look like it was since you became a devotee, is it? It's going to look different. All right, let's do something even more drastic, or doubly drastic. We're going to take you away from association and put you in a cell, solitary confinement, put you in Brahman, just you and yourself. And you're not going to see another devotee for 10 years. How do you think you're going to be doing in 10 years? Mr. Proud, I'm great devotee. How are you going to be doing in 10 years? How many of you think you'll still be a devotee? Raise your hand. Without devotee association. Look how puffed up she is. Oh my God. She wants to be a devotee. Yeah, we should have that determination, but realistically we know that would be hard. It'd be a good chance we would be not doing well, right? So these things should, this is reality check for us. This is real. Without the holy name, without the devotee association, without hearing, how strong will I be? Yes? Yes?
At what point does that knowledge that we are actually nothing, at what point is that a risk of becoming low self-esteem?
Okay, that's a good question. At what point is it a risk that I'm nothing becomes low self-esteem? There's no risk if you don't have low self-esteem. And if you have low self-esteem, there's no risk because you already have it. It'll just make it worse. It's not going to throw you into low self-esteem if you don't have it. It'll just multiply it. It could multiply it. But you see, people who have healthy self-esteem don't get thrown into low self-esteem by people telling them they're bad or realizing they're bad. They just it doesn't bother them. It's like, yeah, everybody's imperfect, everybody's bad, and I'll work on it. That's how they take it. Arrogant people would have a problem. It would be very difficult for them to notice their fault and very difficult for them to deal with it. And people with low self-esteem, they would have a problem. But if you have healthy self-esteem, that kind of humility is not going to throw you. There has to be something it connects to. Right? You see there are many devotees in our movement who are very vulnerable. They're very open. They're not trying to show themselves to be something they're not. And they don't have low self-esteem. You can only be that vulnerable if you have healthy self-esteem. You actually can't do it if you have low self-esteem. It's too painful. You'll avoid it. You have healthy self-esteem, then you can admit your faults, and it can be a very positive experience. Right? That's why I say, if I see someone who has low self-esteem, I generally don't talk about humility, because it'll add salt to the wound, because they won't be able to really understand the difference. Clearly, sometimes they can't understand the difference between low self-esteem and humility. And they'll just take humility as low. And you can't instruct a person, you should improve in this area. But a person with healthy self-esteem has an easier time becoming humble, because they can look at the fault and say, oh yeah, it's a fault, I need to work on it. There's a devotee who's a psychologist, and she told me that, she said, I forget the context, but she said, a person who has healthy self-esteem can make fun of themselves and just laugh. It doesn't bother them. But a person who doesn't, they can't do that. And I think that often, as a teacher in Krishna consciousness, it's good to be vulnerable, because if the teacher is vulnerable, then it allows the students to be vulnerable and stop deceiving themselves. Otherwise, we have an institution of self-deception where everybody's trying to show off for everybody else how Krishna conscious they are, because we feel that that's what we're supposed to do. So if you have healthy self-esteem, you can be vulnerable, and it helps other people be vulnerable. So vulnerable just means being real. This is where I'm at. And it's okay. Like Satsvarupa Maharaj, he was in the initial 11 gurus, and he was writing all these books about all his problems, which, some people didn't understand because it wasn't common in our movement, but it was an exhibition of humility. And also, some people could say, well, isn't that discouraging to younger devotees that such a senior devotee is revealing his problems? You could say that, but you could also say it's comforting to realize, well, that if he's having problems, then my problems must be kind of normal. That this is what you deal with, but you face them and you talk about them. So, I've said this many times, one of the biggest problems we face is just not facing the problems realistically, pretending they're not there, or pretending they're not as bad as they are, because you can't fix something if you don't think it's broken. Right? Yes? If it's not broken, you don't fix it. But if it is broken and you think it's not broken, then you're not going to fix it. So that's why it's so important to not deceive ourselves. So the next time you say, I'm just going to stay up for 5 more minutes, I'm just going to have a little taste of that. I can't change. You made me feel that way. All these things. Then think of this class and question that. Am I just deceiving myself? Am I not being honest? And then probably we can become aware of many ways we're deceiving ourselves. If you know you have a problem, you'll take precaution. If you don't know you have a problem, you won't take precaution. So you have any questions? Or answers? Or doubts? Yes?
Я вот хотел спросить, когда он говорил сегодня о том, как Майя нас обманывает, но и мы не можем это сказать. Чаще у меня так сейчас происходит, что я вижу, что я полностью под таким прессом Майи, и что я просто бессилен вообще что-то сделать.
You were saying about when Maya, she comes in and we don't even notice. And Prabhu said that he is facing challenges that practically all the time he feels how Maya is pressing him and he just feels himself to be helpless.
Mm-hmm.
Ну, то есть, где черпать как бы какое-то вдохновение, когда ты чувствуешь, что все движет твоей тобой Майя, просто невозможно что-то сделать.
Where can we
Это
find
депрессивное состояние.
inspiration? Because otherwise we feel ourselves to be like useless and
Депрессивное состояние.
even depressive kind of state.
Maya is so strong that I feel, helpless, useless? Where can I get inspiration to overcome that? There's different ways you can look at it. But I think the problem is that you feel defenseless when you're not defenseless. That you have more power than you think you have, because your power is to take shelter of Krishna. But if you think Maya has power over you and you can't fight, that's a dangerous position. Because then you might think the holy name and the process is not powerful enough, because I don't feel I can fight it, when you can. So the first situation in dealing with Maya is that I have more power than I think I do. I have more choices to deal with Maya than I think I do. And that, as Prabhupada said, Maya's power is only in relation to your desire to be in Maya. So it seems like Maya is powerful, but it's not actually like that. Our desire is strong. So Maya is only as powerful as our desire to enjoy. It's not like, Maya, what are you doing? I was just sitting on the bank of the Ganga chanting my rounds and you just disturbed everything. It's not like that. Well, she didn't disturb the devotee next to you. She somehow or other missed him and got you. But why you and not him?
Ну, даже с этим я согласен, как бы. Я хоть так посмотри на эту ситуацию, что я и так сознаю, да, мои желания такие сильные, да, и Майя такая. Я с этими желаниями ничего не могу сделать.
No, that's the falsity. Then you can't. That's the problem. When you say I can't do anything about it, that's where Maya has got you around the neck. You see, because where there's Krishna, Maya will leave. Pravda? That's our philosophy. Да? Да?
Ну, Кришна как бы не под нашему щелчку, он может быть рядом с нами. Там, когда Кришна захочет.
But Krishna doesn't come right to us according to our immediate desire. Whenever he comes, he comes.
No, he comes. He doesn't come unless you invoke him. He doesn't just show up out of nowhere. You have to invoke his presence. So, Maya's got you around the neck. You have a weapon to push her away, but you're saying, I don't have the weapon, or I don't know how to use it. That's the problem. You do have the weapon, but you're not using it. Now, if you want to enjoy the material world, why would you use the weapon to get rid of Maya? Because Maya is the facilitator for material enjoyment. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we have to look. Prabhupada's given us the process to get out of Maya. If we're not getting out of Maya, that means we want to be in Maya. So don't think that I can't get out. Think I want to be in. And I'm not doing what needs to be done to get out. If you think that way, then you can get out. Because that's the reality. If you think, I can't do anything, I'm just chanting my rounds, and Maya just comes helicoptering down, surrounds me, and I can't do anything. Then if you think that way, you won't do anything. And you won't realize you called her helicopter to come. You invited her, and then we think she came on her own, but we actually invited her. And if you know you invited her, you could tell her to leave also. You have to understand that's the first thing you need to understand. And then the second thing is the tools or the weapons that I use to get rid of her. And one of them is my desire. Because that desire is bringing her in, and that desire will cause her to go away. Because if a living entity has no desire to be in this world, Maya has no business with them. Her business is only with those who have an interest in this world. Because Prabhupada said, when you have no interest in this world, Maya's business is to get you out. Then she becomes Yoga Maya. So then we could ask the question, okay, Maya shows up in her helicopter. Why didn't Yoga Maya show up? Why Mahamaya? Who invited Mahamaya? And that Prabhu next to you, he's doing fine. He invited Yogamaya. And you can invite Yogamaya also. But if you don't invite Yogamaya, then you end up inviting Mahamaya. And you don't realize you're inviting her. Like, let's say, give an example. You're looking for a girlfriend. He's not looking for a girlfriend. So you find a girl, he doesn't. It's obvious why, because that's what you were looking for. So we have to be somewhat looking for Maya, for her to be bothering us. And that desire that you have to enjoy Maya, you can control that. You can focus your attention on something else. If you know you can do that, it's empowering. If you think you can't do it, you won't try. Maya will come and you'll just put your hands up. Okay, shoot. I'm helpless. You're not helpless. You're never helpless. You have Prabhupada, you have his books. If you're in Maya, my first suggestion is, to anyone who's in Maya, read Prabhupada's books 2 hours a day. And in a few days, you won't be in Maya anymore. That's the remedy for Maya. I was saying yesterday, we were having a morning walk, and I was explaining that Prabhupada's books reveals Maya's plan. She's coming from this side with this weapon. So now you know. Prabhupada reveals it. So now you know the plan. You can deal with the enemy. But if you don't read his books, then she comes, you don't know the plan. So read every day, 2 hours, you'll be fine in a few days. Yes?
I'm just wondering about, sometimes we hear the devotees of our faith, and sometimes also this is just a test which Krishna sends. But that means we in Maya, or do I mix up something right now?
Well, let's say you have a certain desire, something that you're very attached to, right? So Maya is going to come to allure you. So then we'll say, this is a test for me now, because this is what I'm attached to. But how can she test you if you don't have an attachment? So, to say it's not like, if you want to say it in a philosophical sense, Maya's trying to get you back to Godhead, so she'll do something to make you stronger, in that sense, test you. But because she's testing you where you're weak, where your strongest attachments are, then it's because of those attachments that she's there. So I don't think we should think of it like, I was just doing fine, minding my own business, and then Maya decided to test me. And now I'm completely bamboozled, bewildered by all these material desires. We can't be bewildered by material desires unless we actually have them.
So the tests always come from Maya and never from Krishna?
He uses her to test you. It's the same thing. Something's happening. Is this a test by Maya or a test by Krishna? Well, ultimately, you're going to have to do the same thing. It's a test, whatever teacher gave it to you. I personally always think of Krishna. I always think, well, Krishna wants to see what I'm doing. And if Maya's testing me, I always think if it's a test of Maya, she's doing that to strengthen me. Or she's doing that because that's my weak point, and if I give in, I'm finished, and if I don't give in, I'll become stronger. And I always think, Krishna's watching, okay. So Maya's testing, Krishna's watching, what are you going to do? Or Krishna said, test Maya, go test him this way, They work together. So any way you look at it, you could say both. Prabhupada did say, Krishna will test you. But he'll do it through Maya, and then he'll see your response. It's like Prabhupada said that when he started his preaching movement, Krishna took everything away, and that was a test. Now you have nothing. You went from grihastha life to nothing. Like we say, a car accelerates from 0 to 60 in like 4 seconds. Well, Prabhupada decelerated from 60 to nothing in a few hours when he left his home. So he said, I left home, I had nothing. And he said Krishna wanted to see what I would do with nothing. Then I came to America, I became successful, and then Krishna wanted to see what I would do now that I had everything. So both were tests. So if you want to say, that sounds more like a Krishna test, right? You get everything. But whoever's testing, at least Prabhupada said, that was Krishna's doing in that case. So I think it's a powerful meditation when you're being challenged or when you're being tempted to think Krishna's watching and he wants to see what I'm going to do. So this person's bothering me, Hare Krishna. This situation is disturbing, whatever it is. And Krishna's looking, what am I going to do now? least that's how I meditate. So in that sense, I kind of see everything as a test. Right?
И состояние здоровья – это тоже проверка, когда улучшается здоровье.
The state of health can also be a test when your health crashes.
Yeah. At any moment you can be Krishna conscious or not, so that means every moment's a test. Because you can always choose one or the other. Right?
Ну, когда это состояние здоровья мешает внимательно повторять шагу.
For example, when your state of health, it creates obstacles on the path of your chanting,
Yeah.
makes difficulties.
Yeah.
Что делать?
What to do?
Try harder. Don't give up. Get an iPod. Listen to a lot of lectures. Do what you can do. Just do something. You have to adjust. You can't do what you used to do. Always relish Krishna consciousness. That's the answer. Whatever situation you're in, relish it. Hearing, chanting, discussion. Think about them. What about them?
Слушать, читать,
Hearing, reading,
Talking, discussing, everything. Writing. Writing realization. Right now we're all being tested. Just look around the room. You could look at any one of these devotees and have any variety of thoughts. Oh, she's German. Germans. Ma! You could have that thought. Right? So that's a test. You don't like Germans. I'm American. Americans. Worst country in the world. So everything can be a test. Right? I'm tired. It's 7:20. I feel like going to sleep now. But I know if I go to sleep, I never get up before 5. So even if I go to sleep at 7:30, I won't get up till 5. That's a test. I'm starving right now. I'm not going to get home till 9 o'clock. I have service. I'm going to come home starving. And every time I eat at night, I don't get up and I get a stomachache. That's a test. Right? Brahmachari walks in the temple. There's 800 women in the temple. When does a man ever see 800 women in a temple? Hardly ever. That's a test. There must be one of those 800 that he could be attracted to. Maybe more than one. Right? It's a test. Just walking in the temple is a test. Am I going to think of Krishna or think of something else? So every moment's a test. I go home after class. Now what do? I could eat, I could sleep, I could read, I could do so many things. What am I going to do? Test.
Can you ever relax?
Can you ever relax? Yeah, you get around with devotees, you kick back and open the Bhagavatam and talk about Krishna. Take prasadam, tell jokes. You relax with your friends, but if your friends are Krishna conscious, then you're okay. I mean, until you're on a very high level of Krishna consciousness, you could say everything's a test, because it's always, we say we have free will choice, that means it's always a test. When you have love of Krishna, then you're not going to choose anything else. But until a higher level of Krishna consciousness, you're always dealing with that. So everything's a test. Your guru gives you instruction. That's really difficult. Test. Can I do it? Right? You go on the internet. Test. What are you going to do? There's a lot of things you could do on the internet, right? Are you going to do something that relates to your service? Or something to enrich you? Or are you just going to space out? Do you realize there's no time in history where you could find out what's going on everywhere in the world in like 10 minutes? Or you could find out practically anything you want? When I was young, to find out something, I had to get in the car or go for a walk to the library. Then I had to go through the encyclopedia and read this thing, that thing. I'd spend hours and hours. Now you just pull your phone out. So, that's a test. Isn't it? So, all of us have some weak point or a few weak points. And those weak points are where we're being tested. And those are the things we need to strengthen. Wherever your weak point is, you have to become aware of it, you have to admit it, and you have to work to strengthen it. Because no matter how strong you are, your weak point is what's going to cause your problem, not your strong point. It's the weak point. Your strong points don't always make up for your weak points. Sometimes your weak points live on their own and can then destroy all the strong points. In other words, sometimes becoming strong in one area doesn't always affect the weak point. You have to go in and work on that. So we should know our weak points and then try to make them strong. Yes?
Sometimes the subtle things which may not be so apparent
Yes.
that make us weak. So to quote the example you used earlier in the lecture, if someone's addicted to their phone,
Right.
they may not see that as such a detrimental thing.
Right.
So
Phone addiction
how can we...
is not, you may not see phone addiction as detrimental.
Yeah, I guess that's also one of the reasons why a lot of devotees are in self-deception, I think was the word you used.
Yeah.
Because they're not aware of...
Yeah. All right. That's a very good point. He's saying you're not aware that something's wrong, so because you're not aware it's wrong, then how can there be self-deception? Because you're not even aware of it. So the answer is become aware. The 11th offense, have your phone on while you're chanting japa. The 5th negative principle, no Facebook. What are the principles? No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, no Facebook. At least not before 10 o'clock. Now, I could argue with that. And I will. And I would say this. If you're chanting your japa and all of a sudden, you're texting, because somebody on the other side of the world just went out to go Vindas and they're showing you their pizza and, look at that pizza. And you don't realize there's something wrong with that, then you deserve to be in ignorance. That's your prize. So sometimes to say I didn't know when something is that obvious, it's not a good sign. Prabhupada didn't say in his books no cell phones, but he said enough things that we would conclude that's probably not the best thing. So, you can either chant and be happy, or you could chat and be happy. But Prabhupada never said chat and be happy. He said chant and be happy. Therefore, the 11th offense is to have your phone on when you're chanting japa. Otherwise, it'll be chat and be happy rather than chant and be happy. Okay, we can stop. Everybody's good? Yeah, I have a question. Yes?
Sometimes we invite Maya because Krishna consciousness looks so dry. No happiness at all.
Oh, yeah.
It's so happiness right now. Don't get it. So we invite Maya
She's saying,
to get some relief of dryness and some boredom.
we invite Maya for some good, clean fun. Some excitement in our dry, dull, boring life as devotees. I think the answer is, don't have a dry, dull, boring life. Make it exciting. Make it exciting in the Krishna conscious way. By doing service that excites you. And by learning how to chant, is it sweet? Sweeter than ice cream. Of course, you can do something with your friends, get together and have some borscht or something. But, you want to do it in Krishna consciousness. When okay, we're going to get together and watch some mundane movie or something. We're going to watch Avatar. Why are you watching that? Well, it's called the Avatar. It must be Krishna conscious, right? And then you watch a whole movie, there's nothing Krishna conscious about it, but it's this from the Mahabharata, you put that together, you try to make some excuse that, I got some rasa out of it. It's not really what we want to do. Prabhupada used to make fun of the grihastas. He said in the evening, if they're not in class, that means they're home watching movies. Those days there weren't movies at home. He means they're out at the movies or sleeping. That was his analysis. Because the devotees live across the street from the temple. And the grihastas all got off work at 5 o'clock. So he said if they're not in the temple at 7 for arti and class, they're either at the movies or sleeping. So hang in there. Someday it's going to get better. It's going to get real exciting. Krishna uses a word in Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter. I think the word is amarsha, or amarama. Amarama. He said, when you become Krishna conscious, it becomes amarama, exciting. Antar amarama, exciting within. So one day it's going to be exciting within. Sukha, happy within. Jyoti, enlightened within. And amarama, exciting. So, better than a movie. One day you'll see Krishna Leela inside. That's pretty good. But you have to stop watching the movies so you can get in the state where you can see Krishna Leela. That's the problem. So, little sense gratification, Prabhupada said, like salt, a little bit of salt, not too much.
The point is that a little bit
Will lead to more.
is not more exciting. You need more.
A little's not exciting. You need more. Better avoid it. I mean, I had that realization before I was a devotee. The more you do it, the more you want it, and it's never going to end. So I just thought, just better end it. Stop the whole cycle. That's exciting, if you can stop the cycle. Don't you think? That's more exciting. To give up the things that you're attracted to that won't make you happy, that's exciting. Makes you feel good, powerful, satisfied. One whose happiness within, who rejoices within, who's illumined within. He is liberated in the Supreme. He's rightly situated. Krishna consciousness is better than Disney World. See, here's the thing. We have to learn how to relish Krishna consciousness. Because if we don't, we're going to end up in this situation, trying to relish something else. So always talking about Krishna, improving our japa, reading every day Prabhupada's books, having nice relationships, doing service that inspires us. That's what's so important. Because if we don't do that, then we're in trouble. Right? So, smart devotees, they think, I have to relish, I have to do things to relish Krishna consciousness. Somehow or other I have to find that juice. Because that juice is most important. So just try to get the juice somehow or other. Just get it. Any way you can. Beg, borrow, or steal, but get it. Yes.
Вот вы передаете вкус, я это чувствую.
What does it feel how you are giving the taste?
Но я это чувствую, но потом оно он во мне не остается, что мое сердце еще очень грязное.
I feel it, but then after that it doesn't last. Is that an indication that you know?
Well, it's like you go to the gym and you exercise and you feel good. But if you're not in shape and you go home, and then a few hours later you feel bad again. But next year, you'll always feel good because you're in shape. So it's like that. You're getting in shape, and at one point you'll always feel good. And until then, you have to hear as much as you can. And associate with advanced devotees and chant good rounds. And one day, you'll hit a point where everything's good. Sound good? Too much good. Okay. Sounds so good, we're going to end class. Hare Krishna. Oh, wait a minute, we have a question. If you know you make a mistake, is it better to ask for an advice to try to solve it? Or solve it by myself? If you can't solve it by yourself, or you don't think you can, yeah. Doesn't hurt. Lomas is asking, when will we be able to see Krishna? When he feels like showing himself. Bhava, prema, premanjana. Anyway, don't try to see Krishna. Just serve him. And you can go to your local Hare Krishna temple and see Krishna. You can look on the cover of Bhagavatam and see Krishna. It's all the same. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premananda.